There are only 3 witnesses that remain on the earth that are witnessing for God. The first witness is Israel. The second witness is the Bible.
Correct, yeah.
Then the last witness is the church. The church is the reminder of God. So Satan can get rid of the 3 witnesses. Then the enemy can deceive when the truth tellers are no longer in existence. He cannot deceive while we are. He called the place Syria Palistina. So he called it after the Philistines because he knew that for generations, the biggest enemy that Israel has ever fought were the Philistines. So Hadrian knew the history. And then he said, I'm going to call this land a name that will remind the
correct, yeah.
Day that this land that used to belong to them now belongs to their enemies. That's where the name Syria Palestina comes from. Britain did in the Middle East what they did in Africa. No difference. Same animal. They also did that. They played us here in Africa. They played Zulus against the Botswana and the Basotho. They did that in Nigeria, where they played the Yorubas against the Igbos, against the Hausa. So wherever they went, they divided so that they could conquer. That was their strategy. And they did the same thing in the Middle East.
Good morning, good day, good evening, good people. This is Chris from the Bizrat Apologetics. And look, today I have a great guest among us. And I think I'll be doing injustice if I will be trying to introduce him. And so it is best if he just gives us a background on himself. And then after that, we'll be taking it through on the interview between the Israel and the Palestine conflict, having a historical perspective behind it, and where do we stand as Christians as well. My good sir, my pastor, Zakhele Mazibuko, please share to us who are you and where people can find you as well, and so on. So the platform is yours.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I'm actually very curious about Bizrat Apologetics, but I will ask that. So my name is Zakhele Mazibuko. So I was born and bred in the Free State in a place called Velkom. And that's where I was found by the Lord, or where I found the Lord, whichever one prefers. I served in the church there for quite some time. That's where I became a pastor. Of course, I studied at the time through Nehemiah Bible Institute, and then also went to the John Maxwell School of Leadership as well for 3 years. And then I became a pastor at the age of 20, actually. Nice. And that's when I pastored my first church in Senegal, and then moved from that church to start another church in Centurion, and then moved from that church and pastored another church in Hammanskraal in Pretoria up until 2017, when I resigned from full-time pastoring. And then I just focused all of my energy into the non-profit organization work that I do. So I am heading a department there with the youth, where we do everything from spiritual education, skills development, you name it, anything that empowers the life of a young person in the inner city. Do that. I also do prison ministry as well, especially focusing on the juveniles, and that I've been doing for quite some few years. And then, of course, I am most of the times on social media when I get a chance. And so on TikTok is where I'm mostly active. On the other platforms, I'm active as well. So I think that's just it. If anyone wants to know about my marital status, you definitely see that I am not married, very well disciplined. So I can please say that there's no woman on the side that can say whatever about me. I live a very clean and disciplined life. Transparent. What my neighbors would tell you is the same thing that my friends would tell you, is the same thing that my colleagues would tell you, is the same thing that anyone in any space, anywhere we meet, no one will say something different about me.
Sure. No funny scandals. Good things only.
Next, yeah, next,
Yeah,
nobody's coming. By the grace of
I love it very much. Indeed, I love it very much because Paul does advise us to say that let no fault be found among you. Let every good word only be coming out of you. Thank you very much, man. I think I feel like we need to change the interview so that we can just talk about you. The great things that you've been doing, where you are coming from, but no, I'm believing that will be an interview for another day. All right, so the current status of issues that are happening within the globe. Sadly, as much as I was telling someone during the week that I didn't believe that I'll be living in a state where there will be a literal war in the 21st century, and I got shocked when I saw it between Ukraine and Russia, and thinking, what, hopefully it be seized quickly and something like that. And suddenly, between Israel and Hamas, I'm not sure whether to refer it as Hamas or prior to the Palestine, but either way, you'll advise us on that one. And we live in quite a time where we wouldn't be hoping for a literal war where there are people shooting down and throwing bombs and all these things to be happening. Please, for those who are not familiar with the history between Israel and Palestine or Hamas, just take us through it, and so that people might have a clear understanding what is going on. Then you will take us through the floor with everything that you have prepared for us today.
All right. I think the best place to start is just way back, even maybe 3,000 years ago, if we want to build context about what is happening with Palestine, because so many people are confused. They hear Palestine and they, in their minds, they are hearing the Philistines. That in the Old Testament there were the Philistines, and these are those people. Other people think that the Palestinians are the Canaanites, the original owners of it. So it's good to go 1,000 years back. So there was a man called Abram.
Yes.
And Abram was promised by God that he would give him a piece of land. So he was in Haran, which is modern day Iraq. And he left his home in Iraq, and he walked towards what we know as Palestine today, or the land of Israel. And God promised to give him that land. It was unoccupied at the time. There was nothing. There was nobody.
All right.
And we do know that Abraham did not possess that land. And then there was his son Isaac. Then there was his son Jacob. And then Jacob had the 12 sons. And then later on, they went to Egypt as a family of 70 people. And they stayed there. And 430 years later of being slaves, God set them free from Egypt. And he said, I'm taking you to the land of promise. So when people hear the word promise, they need to ask themselves, who was promised that land? It was Abraham before the land was occupied. But when they come back 430 years later, there are new tenants in the land called the Canaanites. The Canaanites were not there when God promised the land to Abraham. So now they stay there as tenants of the land. And God said to the Israelites, these people have become extraordinarily evil. So evil that I want to drive them out of that land. So now the Israelites went to go and occupy what we know as Palestine today. And that is the land of promise. So it belongs to them because God gave it to them before it was occupied by anyone. The Canaanites came and occupied it after it was given to Abraham. And they were evil, and God moved them out of the land. And then the people of Israel lived there. So when you go to the north side of the land, that's where Syria is, and parts of Lebanon, and you come down up until the West Bank. It was called the Northern Kingdom of Israel. That's where the 10 tribes of Israel stayed. Now, when you move from the West Bank right to the south, that is where the Kingdom of Judah stayed. It was called the Southern Kingdom. And then Judah stayed there with Benjamin. So it was the two tribes. And as years went by, we know that we talk about the lost tribes of Israel. because
Yeah.
nobody knows who was scattered where and whatever. But Judah lasted quite long,
Sure.
and came the superpowers of the time. If you read Ezekiel chapter 11, I hope that I'm not quoting a
No, feel
scripture
free.
that I hope this scripture exists. I know that I read it the other day, but I can't really remember. Um,
Right.
I think it is your fellow exiles. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think it is the right scripture. So this was a judgment that God was giving to the people of Israel. That's Ezekiel chapter 11.
All right.
So
Ve-
um, from verse 7. So therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says: the bodies you have thrown there are the meat, and this city is the pot. But I will drive you out of it. He's talking to Jerusalem. I will drive you out of
Okay.
it. You fear the sword, and the sword is what I will bring against you, declares the sovereign
Mm.
Lord. So he's bringing judgment on Jerusalem. He's talking to his own people. And then
All
verse
right.
9, he says, I will drive you out of the city and deliver you into the hands of foreigners and inflict punishment on you. You will
Mm.
fall by the sword, and I will execute judgment on you at the borders of Israel. Then you will know
Yes.
that I am the Lord. This city will not be a pot for you, nor will you be the meat in it. I will execute judgment on you at the borders of Israel. And you will know that I am the Lord, for you have not followed my decrees or kept my laws, but have conformed to the standard of the nations around you. Now, as I
Mm.
was prophesying, Pelatia, okay, that's another statement. So now God had said to the people of Israel, because the Canaanites are so sinful,
Yeah.
because of their sinfulness, I'm going to drive them out of the land. But he warned them that when you go there, don't do what they do. Because if you
Correct.
do what I will do to you what I did to them.
Yeah. Mm.
And when the people of Israel were so sinful, God drove them out of that land. And that is
Hmm.
why the Israelites found themselves scattered throughout Europe. It
Sure.
was because of their sinfulness that God removed them from his land. That land belongs to God. He
Sure.
promised it to Abraham. So came the time of Jesus. So we want to know how they were driven out. We know that they were taken into exile by the Babylonians. I
Correct. Yeah.
think about 700 or 500 years before Jesus came. And then we know
Hmm.
that the Babylonians were then defeated by the Persians. And the Persians just took
Yes.
over that whole slavery. Let's not call it slavery, occupation, maybe colonization, maybe. And
Okay.
so they stayed under the power of foreigners because God had promised that He will give them into the hands of the foreigners. And then
Yeah.
the Mede kingdom went down, and then there was the Roman Empire. When Jesus was born, it was the Roman Empire that was in power. But there were always a lot of revolts and revolutionaries from the land of Israel, because the people of Israel are very brave. Those are very brave people. So they kept on resisting the kingdom of the Romans all the time, and Rome was very tired of this land. It was a difficult land
Sure.
to rule. And then
Yeah.
they destroyed the temple of the Jews in 70 AD. And then they thought, after destroying the temple, maybe the Jewish people will calm down. But they wouldn't calm down. They kept on
Hmm.
resisting. They were all of these things. And then 134 AD, an emperor, a Roman empire by the name of Hadrian. Hadrian said, I need to expel these people from this land. I've destroyed their temple, but they are still arrogant. So perhaps we need to drive them out of the land. So then he drove them out of
Yeah.
the land. He said, all of you out of this, I'm banishing you from the whole area. And to insult the Jews,
Mm.
after he banished them from the area, he called the place Syria Palistina. So he called it after the Philistines because he knew that
Yeah.
for generations, the biggest enemy that Israel has ever
Mm.
fought were the Philistines. They defeated all the others. For some weird reason, they just could not
Oh,
defeat
okay.
the Philistines. They kept on coming back over and over. So Hadrian knew the history. And then he said, I'm going to call this land a name that will remind the
Philistines, correct, yeah.
every day that this land that used to belong to them now belongs to their enemies. That's where the name Syria Palistina comes from. So
Okay.
then they were banished and the land was unoccupied. The land stayed unoccupied for a long time. And then there were a lot of
Okay,
conquests
nice.
into that space. There were they call themselves the Christian kingdoms, but I've got my reservation about their Christianity. You know, the Roman Church was in power in Italy and that region.
Okay.
So then they had their own soldiers that they called the Crusaders, who went to try to conquer Jerusalem. And then at one time you would have the Pagans, called the Sassanids at the time,
Sure.
who also want to conquer Jerusalem. And then you had
Okay.
the Muslims and the Arabs, who were called
Yeah.
the Uyam, who went to try to conquer Jerusalem. Then you had the Christians again coming to, so everyone was coming to conquer Jerusalem over and over again. And that is why you have Arab people there. That is why you would have the Pagans, who are people from Iran who stayed there.
It's just
That is why you would have
trying.
Europeans,
Yeah.
because they went Christians to live there. So in that region, you
Yeah.
found a mix of these people: the Arabs, the
Yeah.
Europeans, ones from Iran, and the Jewish people in
Yeah.
themselves. Just
Trying to conquer. Yeah.
but that land belonged to nobody.
Yeah.
It belonged to no one. And
Okay.
it was even before that, around 1917, the movement called Zionism started coming up.
All right.
And when there were a lot of talks that, hey, we want to go back to our land because we are people with no land. Because here is a fact: even though there was no Zionism, all the Jewish people
Okay.
that lived in Europe, when they got old, they went back to stay in that place because they said, we want to die in our ancestral place. So the fact that they went back and died there, they didn't want to form a state or whatever. No one had a problem. The
Yeah.
problem only started when the Jewish people, younger guys, said, no, we want to move back and stay at our own home. We need a place to call home. That was 1917. And then there was a guy, Theodore Herzl, who then started the headquarters of the Zionism movement in Britain, and they had offices everywhere in Russia and so on. And they started singing this song that we are going back to our home, we are going back to the land of our ancestors, and that thing
Yeah.
made the Arabs very angry, and the Arabs needed to come up with something, because if they say we are Arabs, people are gonna say, well, then go to Saudi Arabia. If they say we are Arabs,
Yeah.
someone is going to say, but you have an Arab League of Nations. So they said we
Correct.
are Palestinians, as if like we are owners of the land. But they never owned that
Uh-huh.
land. They never owned it. And what they want to hide is that
Okay.
when the Jewish people were moving there, even before 1948, they
Sure.
bought land from the colonial masters there for themselves to live there. They bought
Yeah.
farms,
Yeah.
started farms. They bought land also from the so-called Palestinians in the
Mm-hmm.
region. I think 1920, there was an attack from the Palestinian people who went and killed a lot of Jews in the area in retaliation against Britain, because they were not happy with Britain and they said, we will take it out on the Jewish people. So they killed the Jewish people, and the Jewish people now knew that even though we don't have a land, we've got to
Oh,
learn how, we've got to buy some weapons because we must protect ourselves
okay.
against these people.
Yeah.
Then 1922, Britain realized that, oh, things were getting bad. Things were getting so bad. Then maybe we need, I'm not sure if it's your
All right.
network.
I heard you talking about Zionists and saying that they were singing or pushing this agenda of saying that we need to go back. Oh yeah, I think there's a delay. Sorry, I believe there's a delay on that.
All right.
Okay, I think you'll get it though, beginning to sing the song to say that let us go back to the land of our fathers and so on. Can you just explain to us who are the Zionists? What are the Zionists like? Are they part of the Israelites? And or the younger guys, who are they? What is the background on Zionists?
All right. So the word Zionism actually means, what's the right word? Jewish
Yeah.
nationalism is actually the best way. So Jewish nationalism, it's the
Okay.
Jewish people having their own state that belongs to them as Jews, and pushing the agenda of the Jewish people. Just like South
Okay.
Africa,
All right.
if you are an ambassador of South Africa, you push the agenda of South Africa. So Zionism is about land ownership of the Jewish people, specifically in the land of Israel, not anywhere else, and preserving that state of the Jews in Israel. That's what
Oh,
Zionism is about. So it's a political
all right.
ideology,
Yeah.
and it is a cultural ideology as well. All right, thank you, sir.
This network
So
is bad now.
yeah, I can tell. So now, now you have this 1922, when Britain says, okay, things are getting bad. The Arabs are not happy. They've just attacked the Jewish people 2 years ago. There was nothing called
Okay.
Jordan, the Jordan that you know today, Transjordan. All of that was
Yeah.
Palestine. So both Jordan and what we think is Palestine today, that whole area was Palestine by itself. Now, Britain said, okay, let us give the Arab
Okay.
people 70% of the land of Palestine. 70%. That's a lot. That is why you have today a space called Transjordan. So then they partitioned the land and they gave Transjordan to the Arab people. And that is why it was kept by them. That was in 1922. And the remaining land would be given to the Jewish people, but they would also share some key areas with the Arab people. And I hear this narrative when the Arabs saying we were cheated. The Jewish people
Okay.
were given 54% of the land and we were given 46% of the land. That is deceiving. It's not the truth. They were given 70% of the land, and after that, they were given 46% of the remaining land again. It's like you've given someone a big gift, and then now you are also giving them a share in a small gift that is remaining for
Oh,
somebody else.
okay.
So they were given a
Yeah.
lot, and that is, it's in 1922. If you check the Peel Commission, it's called the Peel Commission. So
All
if you
right.
check the Peel Commission, you will get the contents of the Peel Commission
Mm.
on what happened on that day. So these are things that one can just go and search up. What was
Yeah.
the contents of the Peel Commission? Why did it happen? And so
Mhm.
on. So that was 1922. And there were consistent conflicts where also the Jewish people, in
If I may,
retaliation.
if I may just
Yes,
come
sir.
in over that.
Mhm.
Yeah, no apologies. I think the network, what is happening is that there's a delay. So to send you the message, and yeah, so it comes in probably 5 seconds or 10 seconds later than the intended. So just bear with it. Hopefully, the reason why both the Israelites and the Palestinians are sharing the land is because the Europeans, when they were going on, I'm not sure if it was the World War One or two, went to, then we will give you the land, and at the same time they went to the Palestine as well, and they said, if you come and fight with us, we will give you the land. And I'm not sure how true that comment or statement in the land, because after the war then they realized that both of them had to occupy the same land. I'm not sure, it could be because now fallacies, so, and they sound good, but you're not sure the validity of it. I'm not sure what you
Yeah,
can say on that point.
that is so true. We should remember that Britain did in the Middle East what they did in Africa. No difference. Same animal. They also did that. They played us here in Africa. They played
Okay.
Zulus against the Botswana and the Basotho. They did that in Nigeria, where they played the Yorubas against the Igbos, against the Hausa. So wherever they went, they divided so that they could conquer. That was their strategy. And they did the same thing in the Middle East. They played the Arab people by saying, help us to defeat the Ottoman Empire, and then we will give you,
All
this
right.
land, and now you will have a complete League of Nations that you are looking for. And then at the same time, they also had this big burden on the Jewish people that they've been promising from 1917 to
Okay.
say, listen, we're going to give you the land. We understand you are going to get the land. Um, and they had also conversations with Jordan, where they said to the king of Jordan, listen, we are going to give you a lot of land in Israel. And they were playing a political game because they saw that World War
Yeah.
One, well, actually, let's keep one. World War Two was looming, and because it was looming, they needed to see who can partner with us because they were threatened heavily by Germany. Germany was a very terrible machine at the time, and you needed to plan, 100 steps ahead of Germany in order to win. At the same time, nobody tells this story. The Palestinians were on the side of the Germans.
Okay.
There was this Nazi Palestine relationship. Nobody talks about that. So when the Holocaust
Oh,
happened, the Palestinians also took part in the killing of the Jews around the land of Palestine, those that were remaining, and nobody tells that. So, which is
okay.
one of the reasons why the British then decided, you know what, we are not going to go with these Palestinians anymore because they are not our friends. They are the friends of the Germans.
Okay.
At one stage, in fact, Palestine was importing so much from Germany. Germany, I
Yeah.
think at the
Yeah.
time, they were the biggest exporter to Palestine. And then Britain went to the Jewish people that lived in Palestine, and they said to them, you must stop ordering stuff from the Germans. You must start ordering from us. Because they saw that Germany was becoming a very big part there. So you had the Germans who were friends with the Palestinians, and then you had
Sure.
the Brits that wanted to be friends with the Jews. So there was kind of that very terrible political
Okay.
game that we need to hold Britain
Mm-hmm.
responsible for what is happening right now in the Middle East, and we keep forgetting about Britain. They messed up the world
Yeah.
terribly, terribly. So, um,
So
so
much. Sure.
yeah, so with that being said, at the end of the day, it was they had succeeded in destabilizing the Middle East because that was the British agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Destabilize the Middle East, then they will never threaten us. They will be busy fighting amongst themselves to threaten us. So then we can just worry
Yeah.
about Germany. And
Okay.
Germany was no longer an issue after World War II. But in any case, then the
Yeah.
Jewish people were strongly pushing for their own state, saying, "You made a promise, you must keep the promise. We want
Yeah.
our own state." And the Jewish people were accumulating a lot of wealth. And then you
Mm.
also had Jewish people, unfortunately, who were doing everything in their power to drive out the Palestinians. They're not just buying farming land, but also stealing farming land from the Palestinian
Okay.
people from 1920, right through to 1936 or so. And
All
then you
right.
also had the Palestinians that were attacking the Jewish people, trying to kill the Jewish people. And there was this
Mm.
conflict. The state of Israel did not exist yet, but there were these
Okay.
terrible conflicts that were happening between these groups of people. There
Yeah.
could never be. And I hear people saying that no, before there was a state of Israel, there was peace in Palestine. There was no peace in Palestine. Otherwise, 1920 would have never happened. 1922 would have never happened. All of those fights that these were attacking these. I mean, at one stage, for example,
Sure.
the Arab people, and this was in
Yeah.
1920 as well. They went and they
Mm.
attacked Jewish homes, and they killed Jews and so on. And Jews retaliated. The retaliation was so painful that the Jewish people were just killing indiscriminately. Even the British had concentration camps for Arab people so that they could interrogate
Yeah.
Arab people in retaliation to what they had done. So,
Okay.
so no one clean hands here. The Jewish people don't have clean hands. The Palestinians don't have clean hands, and
Yeah.
that is why people think it's a complicated matter, because you had two nationalists that were really strongly fighting for, them to be the rulers. But the truth that people don't focus on is that the
Yeah.
Arab people have already been given a better deal than the people of Israel.
Wow.
And so came 1936, major talks, the Holocaust happened. And as the
Mhm.
Holocaust happened, I said Germany and Palestine were on the same side, and so on. And the World War II ended. And when it ended, the Jewish people formed their own state. And the moment they formed their own state, then
Yeah.
all hell broke loose. All of it broke loose. All the Arab countries around, they tried to invade. 5 Arab countries invaded first in 1948, just a few months after Israel had declared their own state.
Yeah.
Syria came from the north, from the Golan Heights. And then Lebanon also came from the north. Jordan came from the south. Egypt also attacked. I think Iran was part of it. I would need to check this. So these guys were attacking Israel, and they thought we will finish them just like that. But
Mm.
the people of Israel were well equipped and well trained, because I mean they had stayed in a conflict zone for decades,
Yeah.
knew how to handle
Sure.
battle. Now, how the Middle East is set is that the Golan Heights is a little bit accelerated. It's a little bit higher.
Okay.
So if you are
All
fighting
right.
from the Golan Heights, you've got a better position because your enemies are below you.
Oh, okay.
So now Israel knew that as a strategy, Syria will win because of just the where they are. So we need
Yeah.
to go there. We need to
Yes.
keep that space away from them. And that is what Israel did. They went up and they took that space from the Syrians, and they took that space from the Jordans, which is the West Bank. And they were just capturing things from their enemies and say, "We will take all of these resources of yours that you are using to defeat us." And they were
Sure.
also saying, "Remember that this is our ancestral land anyway. We have compromised to allow you
Correct.
to have land. Now, if you are misbehaving, we will take all of it." And that is the whole concept that is happening to this day, that the story has not really ended. But it's not just political.
Okay.
It's political. It's extremely religious. And then maybe to just put
Yeah.
in another part as well, especially on the religious side, the Muslim people believe that their
Yes.
prophet Muhammad went to Jerusalem, and that from Jerusalem he ascended to
Okay.
heaven. So that is why the
Mm.
Al-Aqsa Mosque is their third holiest site in the entire world, because their prophet ascended from there.
Okay. Yeah.
No one saw him ascend. He was alone. He claims he
Yeah.
ascended and he came
Good
back.
God.
It's a very funny story. So that is why they believe that, because he walked with his own feet in that land of Israel, so it has
Ah.
consecrated the land for the Muslim people. And then
Ay.
he said, the angel spoke to him and said, now he has taken this land from the Jewish people because they have been sinful. So he has rejected them and he has chosen the Muslim people. So this is their land. And they think that land was given to them by God. But to believe that, I would have to
Mm.
ask them, who were the witnesses that were with Muhammad? Because he seems to be the
Exactly.
only one telling the story. Unlike the Bible version, you've got 40 authors. You've got
Yes.
40 authors. It's not just one author. And
Correct.
it's everyone testifying. If we go to court, you are the only one who's claiming something versus 40 people that are claiming something. You will lose in court.
Absolutely.
So that is why they are so emotional about it. To them, it's a very,
Mm.
very much important thing. If you want them to bomb everything, you need to just go to Al-Aqsa mosque and then
Yeah.
pray a Jewish prayer there. They will lose their minds because you are desecrating a place where Muhammad flew to heaven from.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that is the claim of the Arab people. And I
Okay.
always say to a lot of Arabs people when they say there is an Israeli occupation, fact is, there is an Israeli occupation in the West Bank as we speak.
Okay. Yeah.
They've occupied the West Bank for a long time. I don't think they will leave the West Bank anytime soon.
All right.
But that is what the Arab people talk about. When you ask them and you say, tell me the truth. When you say
Yeah.
Israeli occupation, what are you talking about? What is Israel
Yes.
occupying? They don't say the West Bank. They say they are occupying Palestine because the whole region for them, from the south to the north, from the east to the west, all of that space is Palestine. And therefore,
Sure.
when Israel is there, it is occupying. That is what the Arab people are
Mm.
talking about. So remove Israel from there. Let the Israelites go to Africa or let them go to Europe. Just remove them from there. The Arab people will be happy. But unfortunately, it's never going to happen.
It won't happen. Yeah. And oh, wow, no, that is a very profound historical perspective that you don't hear around, and people speaking on that one, and people are just choosing just I'm not sure whether to say the shallow information, just the recent ones. But thank you very much for that profound. And I'm not sure from your point of view, what do you think could be the solution to this ongoing conflict that is happening between Palestinians and the Israelites? I know, although yes, it could be a solution, we can
Yeah.
hope and pray and just to what may the peace to be upon, and people can understand to live with each other's differences. But in your own
Mm.
case, what could be the best solution that can be to solve this conflict that is currently happening?
I think South Africa is a perfect example.
Okay.
If every country that has conflict would do what South Africa did, there would be
Yeah.
absolutely no conflict in the whole world. So
Mm.
we had the Afrikaners.
Yeah.
We were very angry at them because of the loss of apartheid and
Yeah.
how they had accumulated a lot of wealth.
Yes.
But the then ANC knew that if we want revenge,
Hmm.
our country is going to collapse. So we must strive for peace because we still want a future for ourselves and for our children.
Sure.
So that means that we need to compromise. We need to
Mm.
forge peace. And the word forge is a very important word. We need to
Okay.
fake it. We need to force it. We
All
need to
right.
make it. And to do that,
Yeah.
we have to compromise. One, we've got to forgive them,
Hmm.
even though they did not apologize.
Yeah, and that is the ongoing statement.
Yep.
We forgave people who didn't apologize.
Yep. Second one, we have to let them keep their resources.
Sure.
Even if we don't like it,
Mm.
it's compromise that we need to do on our side.
Yeah.
On their side, they had to say, okay, we will live with Black economic empowerment.
Sure.
We will live with affirmative action.
Hmm.
It will, in the long run, disadvantage us, but it's okay. There needed to be
Mm.
that compromise from both sides. And that is the only way
Yeah.
you can start peace. Because number one, there are no
Sure.
winners in war. There are never any winners in any war.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Number two, peace has to cost both parties. If one party is not willing to pay the price
Uh-huh.
of peace, there can never be peace. So what I
Yeah.
think, I'm going to start with Israel.
Yes.
Israel must
Okay.
deoccupy the West Bank. I have no doubt the
Okay.
West Bank belongs to Israel because Bethlehem is there, Hebron is there, East
Yeah.
Jerusalem is there. That place belongs to Israel, but
Hmm.
Israel has got to give it away for the sake of peace. If they don't give it away, there will never be peace. And then I will come to the Arab side. The Arab side needs to make an oath. Gaza must make an oath. The West Bank, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, they need to sign a contract that says, we will never, ever attack you. It will never happen again. If one of us attacks you, we will kill this person ourselves.
Yeah.
They need to sign that. Because if Israel feels safe and secure, they can deoccupy, because then they are not worried about their lives. The problem is, the Palestinian side will not do it. That is why when you check in history, you can check the presidents of Israel, you can check the prime ministers of Israel. They have repeated, all of them, there's no exception. All of them have always said, we seek peace. We don't seek the death of our enemies. But I can assure you, you will never find you will never find one Palestinian leader that has ever said, we seek peace with you. We don't seek your destruction. You will not even find one. It shows you the desire of the Palestinians.
But why is it?
It's because they don't want these people to be where they are. Remember that the blood of Ishmael is still fighting the blood of Isaac. Because Ishmael still feels that Abraham has rejected him and that he's an illegitimate son who did not get what he thinks he deserves. So he met then. Ishmael hated Isaac with all of his heart. He hated Isaac. He never loved Isaac. He wanted the death and the destruction of Isaac physically at that time. That spirit never died. It's still alive in the Arab people today because they are the descendants of Ishmael. So you get that spirit. But here's the second thing that is even more powerful. There are only 3 witnesses that remain on the earth that are witnessing for God. Only 3 witnesses. God is left with 3 witnesses alone. The first witness is Israel. As long as Israel is, the story of God is there. Now, you have to wipe out Israel in order to wipe out the story of God. Because look at all the promises that have been made to Judah about the Messiah. Jesus himself said in John chapter 4, verse 22, I think, that salvation comes from the Jews. So as long as the Jews are there, there is a story of salvation. You can't erase that story. Israel is a reminder of God. The second witness is the Bible.
Correct, yeah.
As long as the Bible is here, there is a witness for God. So the devil has got to remove it too. Then the last witness is the church. The church is a reminder of God. So Satan has to get rid of the 3 witnesses. You should look. Satan has tried to put an end to the Bible during the Dark Ages. Satan has tried to put an end to the church. Satan has been trying to get rid of Israel. Those are the 3 witnesses that Satan fights, and he has possessed people. You get people in South Africa that we think people are pro-Palestine, but I will assure you, people are not pro-Palestine. People just hate Israel. It's not because they love Palestine. It's just because they hate Israel. They don't know why. Inside of them, they've got this hatred. Why would the Nazis kill 6 million Jews? It's the spirit of their father, Satan, that possesses them. And therefore, this spirit is driving them. Bona, they just think we just hate Israel. No, they are trying to get rid of the witnesses. When they are done with Israel, you and me who are Christians, they're going to want to remove us. When they are done, they're going to ban the Bible.
Absolutely.
Then the enemy can deceive when the truth tellers are no longer in existence. He cannot deceive while we are.
I see this.
So that's the spiritual side of it. So we went to the political side of it, and then now to the spiritual side of it.
Mm. Yeah, sure. No, that is
So
amazing.
sir, these
Wow. I know. This is deep, actually. You know, yes.
yeah, so these solutions that I think can happen, they are
Okay.
political solutions. They are
Hmm.
not spiritual solutions. It's just on a political level.
Okay.
If the Arab people can promise, we will
I hear
never
you.
want to kill Jews.
Yeah.
But remember also for the Arab people to do that, they will have to edit the Quran.
How so?
Because the Quran speaks about destruction and death to the infidels, which is us and the Jewish people.
Okay.
So as
All
long
right.
as the Quran does the destruction and the death of infidels, then
Mm.
the Palestinian people can never make such a promise. They first have to edit the Quran. It must now say, you have no right to kill anyone just because he does not agree with you. Let God be the judge and not you. That's what they must add in
Yeah.
the Quran to place that verse. They won't do it. Because how will they do it if their
No,
book wants
definitely.
them to, if their book still wants them to kill the infidels, they won't do it. But the Jewish people have no issue. The Jewish people can do it tomorrow. They don't have a problem because there is no
Yeah.
Jewish holy book in the
Yeah.
Bible that orders the killing of the Palestinians. You won't find that. Someone took me to the Old Testament and said, no, read the Old Testament says they must go and make war and wipe those
Correct.
people out. And I said to them,
Yeah.
you can never judge yesterday based on today's standards. That is just illogical. You judge yesterday by yesterday's standards, not by today's standards. If we read the
And
Bible and
context
we
is very
said,
important as well.
very much important. If we read the Bible and we said
Yeah.
Jesus wore a dress, oh, Jesus wore, this is nonsense. If Jesus wore a dress, Jesus then you are trying to judge
Yeah.
yesterday with standards. It can't work. You need to understand yesterday's context. Those were times of wars.
Correct.
They
Correct.
conquered each other through war.
Yeah.
Every nation did it. There was
Sure.
no peaceful nation. Everybody went and conquered and killed. Those were the standards of yesterday.
Uh-huh.
When you come today, we are not living in those times. We are not
True.
barbaric. We don't need to go and kill someone and take their land.
Yeah.
Also, that those there were
Exactly.
times of slavery. People went and
Uh-huh.
sold themselves as slaves. That is why you will always hear that Abraham had slaves, this other one had slaves. The word employee never existed in those days. It was the word slave and master. Even if you were a willing slave, you were called a slave.
Correct. Yeah.
And it was only the Jewish people,
Exactly.
only the Jewish people
Yeah.
that treated their slaves with equal love. Only the Jewish people.
Correct. I remember there was a part as well. It says that after the 7 years, they need to release the slaves and make them to be free. And if this slave decides my master treated me good, then he can go back and say to the public, I want to continue to be with my master and so on. But if he wanted to be free, the master would need to allow him to be free and so on. But people are using those standards of slavery and so on and trying to judge it today to say that but the Bible promoted slavery, and of which in context you realize it's very wrong, because slave came in very types of things and in very of things. So
Yeah.
they are not the same. That's why it's very important to understand context before you can rule a judgment over anything.
It's like in South Africa, German people always
All
get
right.
angry.
So and yeah.
Yeah. So German people always get angry when they come to South Africa. When they get here, they find that we have domestic workers here. They get upset. They say that is slavery. Such a thing doesn't exist in Europe. Anywhere in Europe, you don't have a person cleaning your house.
Okay.
You hire a cleaning company.
Yeah.
You can get a nanny, but you cannot get a
Sure.
cleaner. It's slavery. but they don't understand the context of South Africa. That's why they think like
Exactly.
this.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what you say. When someone looks at the Bible and they don't remember the time that
Yeah.
particular book was written, what was happening, what was normal then, which is not normal
Yeah.
now. Context is very important.
Mm, so much. You know. All right. Wow, that is very profound, sir. And that's what I'm saying. We can go all night, I believe, talking on this and trying to. But I think you've nailed it very well. And we know very well that Christianity came from Judaism, as our Lord and Savior was a Jew, and so we stand today as Christians, and we need to stand with Israel regardless of what. But
Mm.
can you just advise the Christians who probably are caught up between the two? Because I realize the conflict that is happening in Cape Town right now, where they are pro-Palestinians, pro-Israelites, and they're fighting. Probably some of them are Christians, surely. And what is the advice? Where as Christians do we need to stand and to have our firm ground between the two of what is going on? At the same time, we want to have for humanitarian, and we can able to have peace. So but then as Christians, where does it put us, and how should
I
we look
think
at this actually?
the first one that is very much important for us to know. I have never seen
Yes.
any follower of Jesus that is very serious about
Yeah.
their relationship with God. I've never seen those people against Israel, not even one. It is these other cold
Okay.
Christians
Mhm.
that are always pro-Palestine because they are confused about their own relationship with God, number one. And a serious Christian who knows his business, who's got a serious relationship with
Mhm.
Jesus Christ, would never be pro-Palestine. But if we come to easy
Yeah.
things, I think the first thing we need to realize is we
Okay.
shouldn't necessarily be pro-Israel. We shouldn't be pro-Palestine. We should be
Okay.
pro-Jesus.
Correct. Yes.
When Jesus came, they were living under Roman colonialism.
Yes.
But did we ever hear Jesus even once speak against Roman colonialism? Never. He was
Mm.
practically
No, actually,
born
he spoke against the Pharisees.
Pharisees. Yeah. He left those people. There was even a time when they wanted him to say a political statement, and they said, Jesus, yes, shall we give taxes to Caesar? Which actually meant, should we allow ourselves to be colonized by the Romans? Should we not revolt?
Yeah.
And Jesus said, give me a coin. They gave him a coin, and he said, give to
Yeah.
Caesar what belongs to Caesar, give to God what belongs.
Yeah.
He was just saying, listen, all of these things you are
Correct.
worried about, they don't matter. So what I think we need
Mm.
to do is that
Yeah.
we need to be pro Jesus. We need to know
Sure.
that we are not military experts,
Yeah.
and it's not our place to do that. We need to rather put
Yeah.
enemies around the table, and we need to stand between them. And we need to say, if you want to kill this one, kill
Uh-huh.
me first. If you want to kill the other one,
Mm.
kill me first. If I want to make this very visible, if we were all
Mm.
serious about peace as Christians, we
Yeah.
would have all gotten into planes. We would have gone to the Middle East. We would make a human
Yeah.
wall between Palestine and Israel. We would say, if Palestine wants to kill Israel, start with us. If Israel wants to kill Palestine, start with us.
Sure.
Then our blood would become the seed for peace.
Yeah.
So every Christian out
Yeah.
there, let us be Jesus.
Not.
Um, let us pray for Israel,
Yeah.
because we know Israel is a witness. They are a witness. We've got to pray for them.
Sure.
When that witness is gone,
Correct.
we are outnumbered. We are next. We will
Yeah.
also be
Hey.
taken out. And when we are next, the Bible will be next.
Correct. Yeah.
And so So we as Christians, our duty is to pray for Israel, and our duty
Mm.
is also to pray for the salvation of the Arab people. I told a story yesterday in one live. I'm
Yes.
involved, sorry, in projects where we smuggle Bibles into Arab communities.
Hmm.
Because we want them to be saved. Because we know that it is only when the Arabs are saved that there will never be terror again.
Okay.
And they need, to do that.
Yes.
The son of Hamas,
Yes.
the son of the founder of Hamas, it was when he became a born again Christian that he got out of
Indeed.
that
Yeah.
life. It's Jesus that got him out. And his brother also has come to the Lord,
Hmm.
his younger brother. And it is Jesus that got them out. Only Jesus can remove the veil. When the veil is out, then they like, what? Why did we hate Israel? These are our
Yeah.
brothers. So we need to pray for the salvation of the Arab people. We need to support missionaries that are reaching out to Arab countries, because the
Wow.
more we preach Jesus in Arab
Absolutely.
countries, the safer Israel will become.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, no, thank you very much, my pastor. Wow, that was really a profound background on the historical part between Israel and Palestine. And this means a lot. I mean, this is amazing. Thank you very much. And I believe that we'll be reaching to the end of our session. And we'll pray that God to help us in the future to always come together and always try to build up onto something. So thank you very much for leading us and guiding us into this, showing us from the political point of view of it and the spiritual point of view of it as well. And that as us as Christians, where we need to stand about this. You mentioned earlier a part where they came and asked Jesus Christ, what should we do with this coin? And Jesus said, as you did reference, that give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. And someone once mentioned to say that the person who asked the question didn't finish the thing, because then he was supposed to ask that what then should I give to God, and it was supposed to be the part where Jesus is saying, give yourself
Amen.
to God because you
Amen.
are children of God. And so, no, we thank you very much for that. It was very profound. And yeah, I don't know if you have any last remarks that.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I would encourage everyone that can to buy the book Son of Hamas. You definitely, if there's any
Okay.
book you have to read as a Christian, it is that book. But if
Yeah.
you happen to watch this and you are not a Christian, you want to read Son of Hamas. It is a very powerful book. It will
Yes.
really, really change your mind. I would also encourage every believer to don't just watch Al Jazeera.
Mm.
Al Jazeera is a news channel that is sponsored by the Arabs, and therefore its narrative is biased. They plan when they go to show the news what they are going to show. They will definitely show you the side that makes you hate Israel all the time. So I would say,
Yeah.
as a Christian or anybody else, please watch Al Jazeera, but watch CNN as well. Watch BBC as well.
Mm.
Balance yourself. Don't just watch one side. Listen
Uh-huh.
to all sides so that you can get a better context from all angles. And when you are done, go on
Yeah.
Google and just research.
Sure.
Don't just listen to your favorites, also listen to your critics. In that way, you will always get a well balanced meal so that you can come up with your own conclusion. But
Mm.
please get yourself those resources. Some of them are free, but Son of Hamas should be on top of your list when it comes to this Israel Palestine issue. It will really
Correct.
set your mind straight. And I think, lastly, the banner of Jesus has got to be lifted up.
Yeah.
um, the fact that Israel is under
Absolutely.
attack should remind you that one day the church is also going to be under heavy attack like this, and everyone will
Mm.
celebrate our persecution. Everyone will celebrate our death. Everyone will celebrate the burning of the Bibles. Jesus said to his disciples, there is a time when they persecute you that they will
Yeah.
think they are doing good by persecuting you. There is a time that when they kill you, they will think they are doing good by killing
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
So when you see Israel know that it's going to happen to us. So let us strengthen ourselves in the Lord. Let us deepen ourselves in the Lord. Let's not compromise about our faith in Jesus Christ, whether we are in the workplace, at church, at home. We must stand up for the Lord every moment, because we want to make sure that Jesus will one day say to us, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Amen.
And yes, and on and the matters that are happening within, and all the people that are saying wrong things, then we are here as a Bizrat apologetics, of which the term Bizrat means the gospel. So that is where we are. And apologies to my brother Pastor Lwandi. So I'm normally collaborating with him, and then he couldn't be able to join with us. But I trust that he's with us in the spirit and all. And thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you so much. God bless you, sir, and God bless you all.